Welcome to lecture 14. In this lecture we will discuss the training component in urban local bodies in little bit more details. Before I start, let us have a quick recap of the earlier lecture. In last lecture we started the discussion on the capacity building required at the urban local bodies level. We discussed that at the local bodies level or at the local level, every day the functionaries and the elected representative, they are supposed to perform some duty, perform some services. And since the pressure is huge and the responsibility is huge, it is not adequate that they have the adequate manpower or adequate infrastructure, adequate equipments, etc. So, as a result, the performance and the quality of the service is not up to the mark or up to the as per the standards, and as a result the common citizens, common people, they are facing lot of difficulty. So, the one of the way out is to improve the quality of the performance of the organization as a whole, and that activity is called as the capacity building. And for that purpose we have analyzed that how the capacity at the local level depends on what kind of factors. So, basically three kinds of factors we identified. One is the environmental factor, which is basically organizational environment in terms of infrastructure and working environment. Second is the motivational factor, which motivates people to work if for the job and tenure related issues basically. And third is the behavioral components, which is any person's individual and personal matters, which actually enables and influence a person to execute a particular task. And under that we started discussion that that environmental and motivational factors cannot be treated, cannot be tackled by training interventions. Those two factors need organizational level interventions, and behavioral component, which is consisting knowledge, skill and attitude, that can be tackled and addressed through training component. And as a manager of the city, as a manager of the urban development, many time you have to conduct the training for your staff. So, it is very important to know the training component. So, we started the systematic approach in training, that discussion. So, we will continue that discussion today, and we will give you some example how and what are the major component of the training, so that you can execute the training, you can have a overall view, overall assessment or overall grip of the training activities at your government or at your organization. So, let us start. So, today we will discuss systematic approach in training, then dimensions of capacity building and training, what are the basic dimensions which is and training, because including cost and the design elements, and we will see the role mapping and with some example. So, this picture we showed you last day, that is the systematic approach in training. We told you that we have four stages of this set. One is stage 1, that is identification of need, stage 2 plan and design, stage 3 that is implementation of the training, and stage 4. To remember, we told that it is very easy to remember, that is identification of the need, design, implementation and assessment of the training activity. In short, it is India. So, you must remember that. Now, under this, let me tell you that in little bit more details, that identification of the training needs at your organization is very important, because unless you very specifically identify the knowledge and skill required for each and every person or each and every cadre, it is difficult to design a training or take a strategy for the training. So, in urban local bodies, the training need, that is the knowledge and skill the gap is there for at these 3 levels. So, 3 levels are, it can be there at the organization level, it can be there as a job level which is done by a particular section, or it can be done at the small task level which is done at the individual level. So, let us see. So, at the organization level, any organization as a whole may need a particular exposure or particular reform or particular change. If that is required, that needs a training. For example, when the planning activity was made mandatory for the municipalities, in that planning activity, urban planning activity, the involvement of various people like elected member, the functionaries, that is the and the planners, engineers and local community people, those who are working at the community level, all cadres of people are required to contribute in this planning activity. So, for them at the first time it was required to give them an exposure and some amount of sensitization and orientation about the planning activity, because it is not a particular job of a particular section, everybody needs a exposure on the planning activity. So, at the organizational level this kind of input is required. Second is the job level analysis. When we see that the same activity, the planning activity will be done by a particular section, that is a planning section or a technical section. So, that section needs a different kind of input. They need input on how to do a planning, how to execute, how to design a project, how to identify the major projects or major strategies. So, their input on the same activity will be different than the organizational training. So, when the organization needs a training about the sensitization and the exposure, the job level training will be more on the activity level, and so that the section or the group of people can perform the job at the end of the day. So, job is basically a complete series of task or small element of the activity which makes a complete job. It has a specific start and an end and with a outcome. In this example, the outcome is the planning document which is required for the municipality. Third is the task level. Let me give you an example. Suppose to do the planning function, there are various tasks like survey, like mapping, like report writing, like workshop, and its related activities, and then strategizing. Now, you can understand that definitely surveys will be done by the survey and the engineers, mapping will be done by the architects, planners, reports can be done by both of them, workshop can be organized by the various people including local representative, and strategy can be done by the elected representative and planner. So, for each and every particular task which is required at to do this, every people they need specific direction, specific instruction to perform that particular task. So, cumulatively so many tasks makes a job, and when various jobs are there at an organization, overall that organization needs a orientation or sensitization for all kinds of job which need to be improved from the earlier situation. So, any training need analysis or the knowledge and skill gap has to be analyzed at the organizational level, at the job level and the task level. So, this is a schematic diagram. So, if this is a picture of complete job and you can see that there are various tasks involved in this picture. So, there could be some new task which could be already existing task. So, this is a very symbolic diagram, but in your organization you can list out the task involved for a job. Let me give you another example, say building plan sanctioning. If this becomes a complete job, so there are various stages involved in the building plan sanctioning. So, if that can be listed properly or that can be arranged or sequentially illustrated, and that can be analyzed that which are the tasks can be performed or currently being performed by the engineers or the other people, and which are the tasks they cannot perform. For example, various urban local bodies, there are online sanctioning of the building plan, but you need to give them some kind of training for that, because otherwise offline or manually they are doing this for years. So, maybe they know or they are aware about the various tasks earlier, but when you change the technology or change the system, so when you have some new task here, so that could be given in terms of the training or the input. Now, let us just briefly tell you that when you conduct the training, after the training need analysis, what are the basic element of the learning unit. So, after the training need, you know that the next stage is the design and then you implement. So, in design and implement stage, you need to know that what I mean, when you design a particular learning event, you know that every event is divided into several unit. So, a training is divided into several units, which sometimes we call at module, and several units are further divided into several learning unit, which is basically a single doses of knowledge or skill. It can be a lecture, it can be a discussion, it can be any types of delivery which ultimately improves the knowledge and skill level. So, if I consider say a single lecture or single discussion or single exercise or field visit, what could be the stages of the learning unit. So, first stage is the objective, that is the what is the that is the final target of that particular unit. Second is the entry behavior. Entry behavior is the existing level of knowledge. Third is the learning event, that is delivery of knowledge and skills, and also after that you perform the assessment, that is assess whether the gap is fulfilled or not. Okay. So, let me give you one example. Suppose you want to give a training to the municipal people that how to make a base map of the municipality. For this that is your target is to that after that particular lecture or particular unit, they will be able to make a base map of the municipality. So, you first ask them that whether they have any prior experience or knowledge about the preparation of the base map or not, what kind of knowledge they already have. So, if you can count or you can assess their level, that becomes the entry behavior, in short we call it is EV, and then you can assess that what is the remaining portion which you need to teach them or you need to give them input, that will come as a learning event. You can design that in terms of the lecture or practice or discussion or demonstration, and then after that you can give a performance assessment test, like you can tell them that okay, create a small map for a municipal ward, and so that you can understand whether they are able to create that map or not, and then you can assess that if they need any remedial unit or input or not. So, this is a typical learning unit for which we basically design in a training module. There can be various amount of learning unit which makes a complete training module. Okay. Now, for the designing, apart from the learning units, there are various components which you need to consider for designing and planning a training. So, first is the target group. So, in the target group basically we categorize in three categories. One is elected member, then functionaries or administrative and technical. So, basically you know that elected members are the councillors of the municipality, Apart from the councillors, there are ward committee members, so they will be considered as a domain of elected members. So, their course will be little different than the functionaries. Second is the functionaries like executive officer, municipal commissioner, vice deputy commissioners, or the people who are working for the assessment, financing, accounts, etc. And the technical will be like architects, engineers, planners, the people who are working at the accounting system, or people who are working at the calculation of the assessment or the valuation. So, those kind of training will be required for the technical persons. So, these three categories have to be remembered very clearly, that elected is the elected member, for councillor, functionaries, those who are basically involved in the administrative and related job, and technical, those who are making a particular technical job and executing some technical results. Second is the performance problem, that is, what is the problem or gap in performance. So, as per the municipal guidelines or their job expectation, are they able to deliver their job at their expectation level? If not, what is the gap? So, you have to express the gap in terms of knowledge and skill. When we say knowledge and skill, it should be in terms of maybe they do not know about the norms and standards, maybe they do not know the process, maybe they do not know the concepts, maybe they do not know about the methodology or rules and regulations. So, all these are amounts to elements of knowledge, and skills are like maybe they don't make a computerized accounting of a particular job. They maybe they don't know how to make a map, they don't know how to process a building plan, how to make a TA form. So, all these are skill oriented problem which we see. So, all the performance gap has to be distributed or classified into knowledge and skill. Then after this, we have to make a training need in terms of knowledge and skill together. Then we have to identify the duration in terms of day or hour, or in terms of this phasing. There could be requirement of the various phasing of the more than one phasing of the training. Then think about the faculty and the institute. Based on the your subject, you decide that which institute or which faculty will be required. If it is a technical subject, you may if you collaborate with some technical institutes. If it is a administrative and management related problem, you may collaborate with some management related institutes. So, based on that you can decide the institute, and sometimes you can call faculty at your workplace and conduct the training there itself. Then on-site and off-site training, it can be on-site, it can be off-site. The advantage of the on-site training, that is courses at the municipality, is that it is cost effective, because you do not have to bear the travelling cost of all the functionaries or the people for whom you are designing the training. But on the other hand, if the disadvantage is that when I have seen that when the training is organized at the ULB level or at the organizations, they cannot concentrate on the training because they are also occupied with various other kind of job. That is one disadvantage. On the other hand, if you make a training on-site, off-site, that is you send your people to other institute where they stay there for 3, 4 or 5 days full time as a residential training, residential course. So, that is better in the sense from the municipality, they are out of their job for few days and they can concentrate on the deliberations. On the other hand, it is little more cost intensive, so that you have to incur. Then media and delivery, if you want to organize the course at your organization, you have to be well equipped about the classroom facility, the audio visual facility. Without that you cannot organize the training. I have seen that the various municipalities are there, those are organizing the training in their boardroom, but boardroom is not meant for the training, because training needs lot of other facilities which is equipped at the classroom level. So, please think about it, and it is a basic essential infrastructure in today's context. Then performance aid, please think about that after the training is over, how your functionaries will perform day to day basis. So, is there any performance aid, for example some checklist, for example some guidelines or manual or some flow chart. So, if it is there, please insist those kind of performance aid to the training providers, so that your staffs can become more equipped with the performance aid and the guidelines, they can perform better. And it may not be sufficient, evaluation of the training is important. You assess whether the gap is really fulfilled or not, whether after the completion of the training the staffs are really able to perform their job or not. If not, if you need any remedial training, maybe you call 1 or 2 visiting faculty, or you can give some refresher courses that can fulfill the remaining knowledge gap and the skill gap, and that can complete the training process. But as a fact, in our current context, we hardly do any assessment and evaluation of the training outcome where it is essential for any training. So, training should not be seen as a money spent or the funding spent or its mechanism, whether money spent or not. The effectiveness of the training has to be seen in terms of the performance of the staff. That is the point which is to be noted here. Just I mentioned the various training methods are there, because your role will be as a faculty sometimes in your urban local bodies. We know that traditional methods are lecture, group discussions, coaching if there is a skill related job, exercise, field visit, exposure visit, case study, role playing, project, and also distance module. Now, we have seen when urban local bodies and their staffs are working at the local level, it is very important that training methods are need to be very much effective. So, we have seen more and more you engage them in the training process, the outcome of the training is better. Instead of giving boring lecture for the full day, if you engage them through case studies, discussions, role playing, field visit, if you can arrange for some exposure visit, it acts like a magic, and it really works very well, and it can improve the performance of the municipality as a whole. After that, also please take a note that what is training of trainer. It may not be possible to arrange a series of training throughout the year by various outside organizations. So, it is important that you develop at least 4 to 5 training of master trainer or trainer at your ULB itself. You as a resource person also can be a trainer if you develop yourself. So, please consider that there are various training of trainer courses under Government of India, you can attend that, and after that, after some time, every ULB, if they have couple of trainers itself. So, small trainings which they can do within their setup, within their own resources, that they can execute, maybe further training or specialized training that they can outsource to the other organizations. So, training of trainer is a very essential job which is usually done at the state level, so that municipality can upgrade their status from the general training, expertise training to only to expertise training done by the outside agencies, whereas the general training they can execute at their own organization. Now, let us see the component of the training cost. You can see that the first component is the lodging and boarding of the participants, then the reading material what you provide, the honorarium for the faculty, then TA honorarium combined, then training hall charges may be there for some program, then site visit charges, then there could be institutional charges if you hire the institutional expertise, and there could be internet charges or administrative charges altogether. So, this example shows that you can just have a look that this is a standard of the residential course which currently institutions are doing, including our own institution IIT Roorkee, for the urban local bodies under capacity building for the urban development. So, roughly if you do a residential course in other places, it will be roughly 2000 per candidate per day. It can little more plus minus, but if you do on your own place, it could be less than that. So, whatever you do, whatever cost is incurred, ultimate objective is to see the performance and the effectiveness of the training. That is the learning point from this example. You can just have a look that the module which we designed for the for few under the capacity building for urban development activities. This is under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Various courses we did. It was for the Madhya Pradesh government, and it was 3-day module. So, in a 3-day module The day 1 consists the essential basic information about transport planning, the planning and governance, then some planning about concept on the non motorized transportation, etc., etc. I am not going into details. So, after that the second day module was like that. The day 2 was basically focused on the urban infrastructure planning and design part, and day 3 was the practices of management in the town planning. So, this was a orientation program for 3 days for the functionaries in the municipalities. This was done under the Amrut mission. You know that Amrut mission is basically a continuation of the Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission. Under that we conducted this training. So, let us have few glimpses of the photograph. So, this is a typical arrangement of how we conduct the lectures and the demonstration, but there could be other arrangement of the discussion, like discussion form. You can place them in a round shape or the U shape, so that there could be more interactions. You could place them group wise also. So, this is not only the example of the arrangement of the classroom. Apart from the classroom, you can make them visit to some places as exposure visit and as a practical orientation visit. So, that will add value to the training courses. So, with this we are going to conclude this capsule on the capacity building and training. So, before I finish, let me quickly summarize today's lecture. Today we discussed the elements of the training. We started with the discussion of the systematic approach in training. There are 4 stages in systematic approaches in training, that is identification need of the training need, design and planning, implementation and the assessment. In short, it is India. In the training need, has to be analyzed at the organization level, job level and task level. Organization level training need basically looks after the need required at the organization level. The job level training need is for the job done by any section, and the task level training need is for any individual person. Then we have seen that in a design of training there are various modules, and under the module there are various units, and every unit has again 4 stages. The first stage is the objective, that is the purpose or the target of doing that particular unit. Second is the entry behavior. Entry behavior is the current knowledge and the skill of the target group. And third is the learning event, where we actually deliver the knowledge and skill, and fourth is the assessment and the result of the performance, and we have a test. So, and then we discussed the various components of the training. It is very important to see the cost component, the delivery component, institute or the training providers component, on site, off site, target group, the level of the participants. All these are very important to plan and design. Then also we showed you some example of the training from IIT Roorkee, and with this the learning point and the very important message which is to be remembered, that if you organize any training or make a training plan, please focus on the training effectiveness and the performance improvement of your staff, and slowly and gradually please develop a system of training of trainer, so that after some time every municipality, every local organizations, they become self reliant, at least for the general training which they can perform at their own place, and maybe specialized training can be given or can be done by the outsourced or other agencies. So, having said that, I thank you very much. Next day we will discuss another very important element in the organization element, that is the system and process improvement, which have the huge potential, and we are also working in this sector in India for last few decades, so that municipality can enhance their performance. So, with this I thank you very much for attending this lecture.